Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies, you know what I have been? A time or two.
Sure, I've been in love a time or two, but in the end I still chose you.
No one could ever make me feel
this way. That's why it's killing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we gonna let it kill Cisco and Drew Hill. We gonna keep it between us. What's going on is I'm heading into town, and this is gonna be the full length of the video. We got a little bit to talk about. No, I am still in pain. No, I'm still having trouble walking. Yes, I'm forcing myself to walk, and yes, I'm okay. There you go. Take care of that stuff at the very beginning. Look, I was told by my doctor when I was 15 years old, he didn't even tell it to my parents, that he didn't expect me to be able to walk by the time I was 35 years old. I was told by a second doctor that I would probably be bedbound by the time I was 45. I was told by another doctor that, now mind you, these are doctors who had all of my records, had all of the tests and all of that junk, that he didn't expect me to survive past 35. I know doctors can be wrong, but when you hear that, especially as a kid, you take them as professionals. So the fact that I've made it this far, no, I was in a wheelchair for 2 years. So technically, he was somewhat right. Okay? Can't take that away from that idiot. And walking? Lately, I can't walk to, man. I've been walking all morning, and so I am making myself walk the same as I had to get out of the wheelchair. I had to force myself to walk so that my body doesn't get to the point to where it says, okay, I'll accept that. You don't want to walk anymore? Don't worry about it. I got you, boo. We ain't gonna play that. So, we are gonna take this trip because I need to let you guys know, my people, because I'm talking to my people right now. I'm not talking to the rest of you. You're just a bystander in this discussion. But the courts, the administration has vilified individuals who challenge the system. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't just challenge the court's jurisdiction. You have to be specific when you challenge their jurisdiction. If it's subject matter jurisdiction you was challenging, then use challenge subject matter jurisdiction. Well, what is subject matter? Well, exactly what it says. The subject matters. So what y'all talking about? You're talking about foreclosure? Oh, no, ho, you ain't got no jurisdiction over no foreclosure. No, you need the actual lender here. Where's the Federal Reserve? Oh, no. They're an agent. No, they don't represent the Federal Reserve. See, they said, go ahead, here's the paperwork I received from them. Doesn't say we representing the Federal Reserve. They say we the lender. So thank you for proving that they are committing perjury. They're falsifying information. I asked that this matter be dismissed. What you mean? You just said that they are representing the Federal Reserve. Well, here they never explained that they were representing the Federal Reserve. They said they were the lender, not that they were representing a lender. That is false and misleading information. It's called material evidence. And it's exculpatory. So we could have a hearing where the Federal Reserve can come in here and say, hey, they don't represent us. We could have that hearing because you now bringing up a presumption. Oh, no, I brought you a fact. I said you didn't have jurisdiction, and you said, because I asked you where's the lender, and you pointed to them. But I said the Federal Reserve. Uh-oh. My other phone fell off of its... How in the world? What the... sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I have one of those automated phone holders, and that thing just opened up on its own, like it was automated. And now I gotta figure out why it automated itself. Okay, it looks like we doing it, but I gotta tighten that junk up. Well, it's made out of plastic, and you know, anything made out of plastic ain't worth the plastic it's made out of. You know what I'm saying? And so what I had to do is I had to use my plastic repair gun. You talk about the best investment I made in a lifetime. Plastic repair gun. Ladies and gentlemen, ain't no more throwing things away or trying to use crazy glue to bring it back together. No, it's called a plastic welding gun. Look it up. It's simple to use, and they ain't that expensive. I mean, not for all of us, because some of us are, you know, some of y'all are rich. So it definitely ain't expensive for y'all. But there are people out there who can't afford not being able to afford. You feel me? All right, getting back to this judge and this subject matter jurisdiction. You see, when they come across as claiming that they are the lender, they are not the lender. There is no evidence on the record that they are the lender. Well, that's called standing. We're going to challenge standing next, later. But we are challenging subject matter. They're trying to foreclose. The court must have jurisdiction over foreclosure. Wait, hold on now. Not just any foreclosure, but foreclosure by a company claiming to be the lender when they ain't, and doing the speedy foreclosure process. See, in order for the courts to have jurisdiction, there must be a controversy. Well, the reason why they can put you through that speedy foreclosure is because you claim you owe something. And if you claim you owe something, that means you owe. So guess what that means? That means there's no controversy. That's why you say, oh no, I owe them a dime. Well, where's their proof? A statement? Hey, well, where's the signature? Ain't no signature? Okay, I'm sorry. Your Honor, I'm going to ask you again. Where's their proof? But people are not doing that. Don't worry about it. They're going to come my way eventually, because they're going to get tired of y'all going in there and checking them from now on. Like I said, they done pissed me off. Well, what did they do to piss you off? Oh no, don't worry about that. We got that going on. Now, I'm going to segue before we get back over to subject matter jurisdiction. I want to tell y'all about something. The vehicle I have, when I first got in the vehicle, we turned on the air conditioning and we would go from number 3 to number 4, and then you could barely feel the difference. And I'm sorry, but I'm like, wait a minute, this thing should be blowing cooler than this. I should be getting more air out of it. I mean, this thing should be, when I turn it on, we should be hearing, you know, the windows being down somewhat. You know what I mean? There should be a breeze and not just a slight breeze. And for the life of me, I'm like, I checked the so-called Freon and nothing's wrong. And I did not remember the cabin filter. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're finding that your air conditioning is not blowing as good as it should, and the fan is not blowing as forceful and as strong as it should, then find out where your air filter for your vehicle is. It's called the cabin air filter, not simply air filter. They're two different things. The cabin air filter, and find out where that's located on your vehicle. Either have a mechanic take it out and replace it. We didn't replace this one. We just cleaned it off, used a spray gun, water spray gun, sprayed it down thoroughly, and then proceeded to let it dry thoroughly, and we put it back in the vehicle. All I can tell you, it's, man, that song Night and Day by Al B. Shore, yeah, that's where we at. Okay, that's where we at. Okay, back to subject matter jurisdiction. Oh, we're playing Josh Stone in the background, y'all. If y'all don't know who Josh Stone is, you do need to get acquainted with Josh. She is something special as a singer. All right. Subject matter jurisdiction, ladies and gentlemen. The court must have jurisdiction over the subject. What's the subject? Speedy foreclosure. What do you mean? They're just doing an unlawful detainer. No, it's speedy foreclosure. You see, in order for them to do an unlawful detainer, they must have given you due process. Well, due process says you have the right to do a counterclaim, you have the right to an attorney, you have the right to due process of law, you have the right to equal protection of law, you have the right to discovery, you have the right to cross-examine, you have the right to a trial by jury. That's due process. But you lose that because they worked it out where Congress passed a law. Well, it's not even a law, it's a recommendation to the court. And it's a speedy foreclosure recommendation. They said that so long as there is no question as to whether or not there's a debt, that's right, you go in there saying, yeah, I signed that contract. Well, that's all the court needs to hear is you signed it. Once you admit to signing the contract, you just agreed that you owed the money. So there's no controversy as to whether or not you owed and you failed to pay. So they need to be able to have that speedy trial jurisdiction. Speedy foreclosure jurisdiction. And they don't get the speedy foreclosure jurisdiction just because they feel like it. They must establish speedy foreclosure jurisdiction. So you have to challenge their subject matter jurisdiction. Now you're going to find that there are going to be people who are going to challenge me on blah, 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 blah. Don't care. If you don't believe me, just do it. It ain't going to hurt you. It cannot hurt. All right, now we're going to segue one more time. Like I said, this is going to be a long trip. So we'll probably split this up in 2 videos. This time I'm putting them up. Sometimes I do videos and then I said, nah, I'm not going to put that one up. But this one I'm putting up. Now I want you to know that there is a fire around the property. We told y'all about 3 weeks ago that there was a fire around the property. Well, 3 weeks ago, the fire that was around the property, it took them 11 days to put that junk out. And they did their backfires, which almost backfired and came into our area. Well, now, I want y'all to pay attention. This is very important. Now, the fire is, the whole time we've been driving, I am heading indirectly. Indirectly meaning I didn't do a straight line. I did a B, a C, and a D line. Okay? I am still heading toward where the fire is, which means I've traveled about 25 miles so far. Yeah, that was 10 miles, and yeah, that's about another 10 miles. So I've done about 25 miles, okay, from my place. Now, I'm still not at the fire because I'm traveling northwest at an angle, but I'm nowhere near the fire. However, if you know anything about fires, a fire can travel at 70, 80, 100 miles an hour. I just saw the crews, staging crew, because the firemen need a place to sleep, they need food, they need water, and so there are individuals who provide that for the firemen while they're on the field, who cook and all of that. Oh, y'all think that all they do is go out there and put out the fire and then they go back home later in the evening? No, many of them stay there for days without ever having gone home. Okay? It's the whole thing. Sorry, that turn right there is 15 miles an hour, and I have a trash truck in front of me, that I'm going to have to pass. He's about 3/4 of a mile in front of me, and I'm going to have to pass him because he's going to become a problem when I start going through the canyon. Because what's going to happen with him is he's going to put me and have me boxed in. And right now, we're going to be okay. He's not a trash truck. He's a water truck. And he is going to the fire. He sees me trying to pass him, and this idiot actually sped up. It don't make no sense. I don't know why people do that. I got over in the passing lane about maybe 7 car lengths behind him. When I say 7 car lengths behind him, I'm not joking. I got into that passing lane, and then he starts to speed up as if he doesn't want me to pass him. Well, he's been passed. Like I said, I got to avoid all of that stupidity, because that's the stupidity that gets people in accidents. Now, mind you, I still haven't gotten to the mountains where the fire is. Okay? But if the wind started blowing my way, which is the direction which was bringing the fire and the smoke our way, and I've been breathing smoke for the last 2 days, okay, not really thick black smoke, but really thick brown smoke and dark brown smoke. What they said is that the area that's burning now, they don't have any history of that area having burned any time in the past since at least the 1800s. That area that's burning now has never burned in the entire 100 and some odd years in the past recent history. And therefore, all of the stuff that's burning has never burned before. So that's fresh fuel. And so that's what's causing the problem. I have been able to watch the effects of this fire creating its own wind, because the wind would be blowing from the east, and the next thing you know, this fire will cause the wind to blow the fire back towards us against the wind blowing from the east, and it be stronger than the wind blowing from the east. Anywho, oh, this is my boy. Just reach out, and I'll be there to witness the moment we share. It's impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, Jaheem, impossible. This is how we roll. At least today, because other days it's a whole different set. It's either my music or something else. But right now, Josh Stone and Drew Hill and Jaheem. Hey, it's a variety. Now, let's get back to our challenging jurisdiction. There's a lot of you who don't know that it is fundamental. Doesn't matter if you are in a criminal matter, a civil matter, or any other type of labeled matter, you have the right to challenge jurisdiction. There is no law saying you have to challenge specific jurisdiction. You can challenge it as a general jurisdictional challenge. And you can say, I generally challenge every aspect of jurisdiction because you don't have none of the criteria having been met. Sorry, I got a car coming at me with flashers on, but he's towing somebody, so, all right. Anywho, you can challenge general jurisdiction. There is a such thing, but the courts get technical with you. So when you don't highlight what type of jurisdiction you're challenging, 1 fire truck, 2 fire trucks, and yeah, they're all coming up this hill. That means the fire is coming this way. Yeah. They're all coming up the hill. They haven't been up this hill since this all started. And so now they're coming up the hill. This is going to be interesting. I'm even going to turn on my lights it's like it's 6:30 in the evening or 6:30 in the morning. That's the sky right now. That's why my solar panels haven't been fully charging, because the smoke is literally blocking out the sun. And I got maybe I'm in the area. The fire is right on the other side of me. Now that much I can tell. I'm finally in the area where the fire is. I'm not concerned about this area right here. I'm not concerned about driving through here. The fire is still a ways away from this road that I'm on. And when I say still a ways, quite a ways. My hope is that by the time I get back, they're able to get a handle on it. We have until next Thursday where our temperatures are going to be pretty high. Right now, our temperatures are at about 100. And we are this time of year supposed to be at 115 or something like that. So we should be doing a lot worse than what we are. I have a lot of neighbors, well, they are my neighbors, I don't know them, who own a lot of ranches and a lot of big properties that I'm driving by right now. And I don't know what's going on with these guys, because like I said, the fire covers a large area, so I'm still driving with the fire several miles to my south, and I'm heading west. So technically, for the most part, I'll be heading southwest, and I should just go to one location and not the other, but I gotta take care of this because I won't be able to do it next week. I wouldn't be able to save anything this time anyway. That I can promise you. I can't move. You know, I'm really, literally having a very difficult time moving. And I'm just starting to realize that this all started when the fire started. And so, and I kept telling people something changed that day when the fire started, because I noticed it. And I even told that to the person I was with, because I told them that my toe is starting to hurt. And I said it as if it was something that was unusual. But now I remembered the last fire we had and how I had to go and try to get the dogs, and I could barely move because of the same problem. I'm starting to correlate it with the stupid fires. Okay, I don't know what it is that could cause it, but I got to do some research. All right, back to jurisdiction. So to take care of things, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to challenge subject matter jurisdiction. Now, jurisdiction is not something that can be said on the record. Jurisdiction is something that has to be proved by the record. I want y'all to understand. You cannot just say, I got jurisdiction. The court has jurisdiction. Excuse me, that's not your call to make. That was never your call to make. Nobody ever gave you that delegation of authority. Who gave you permission to determine the jurisdiction of the court? You guys got to know this. A judge cannot determine the jurisdiction of the court. No court may determine its own jurisdiction. The judge is an officer of the court. So the judge does not have the authority as an officer of the court to determine the jurisdiction of the court. The judge must prove the court has jurisdiction, not by words. Proof is not words. Proof is foundation. The judge must prove this. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting day, because I can see all of the so-called officials with the fire department and so forth. I can see all of them coming up the hill. And I can see that they're going to use this as a staging ground to try to keep it from coming into the area that I'm in. There's a lot of money in this area that I live in. And I mean, this is a large area, as you can tell by now. I'm not even halfway to where I need to go. Okay? But because there is a lot of money in this area, there is a lot of people who are saying, no, y'all not going to let my property burn up. Not after, I got too much influence in this area. That type of thing. And you better believe they go out of their neck to protect their property. And it's not all about insurance. It's about the fact they don't want to have to rebuild because the fire department didn't do their job. And excuse me, I will give them some credit. They are competent enough to put out fires. Why they allow certain fires to grow so big? They just talked about how they were building a backfire, and the fire created its own storm, so to speak, and threw the fire in their direction where they were building the backfire. And they had to withdraw all of the people who were helping to build that backfire because of the intensity of that wind. 40 miles an hour, constant wind, and the amount of helicopters they have to do the helicopter drop is more than enough. Sorry, squirrel and dead carcass on the road, and so I had to avoid that. I don't want to ride over no dead carcass, and I'll be bringing that smell with me for the rest of the day. Anywho, oh yeah, squirrels, they work for Geico, and they all about getting Geico as much money as possible on this road. They ain't gonna get none from me. I done taken out too many squirrels already. I ain't got time to be swerving to try to avoid a squirrel. And then next thing you know, on the 6 o'clock news, we ain't playing that. Okay, back to the hotel. Hey, look at that. I am past the fire. No more smoke in my peripheral. There's smoke behind me. So that should tell you what's going on. All of that was how long it would take me to get past the fire in this direction. In this case, I have technically 2 ways out, but a third way, which is not the most accessible way. Okay, so I do have ways out. I don't have to be boxed in, and we are prepared if I have to leave, because I take all of the essentials, the papers, the computers, and I leave everything else behind, and I don't worry. And I have a Volkswagen Passat station wagon that I can put the dogs in the back. But the problem is, as a matter of fact, they've been fighting lately, and one of them has fought and bit Griff. And that right there, I know that they dogs and everything, but somebody gonna die. Because Griff, you don't mess with Griff. Griff is, he ain't even that old. He's the oldest out of the lot, but he ain't even that old. He's like maybe 5 months older than the oldest one, which is Eve. They're all puppies, and Eve was 11 months when I bought her. Yeah, I'm gonna take care of that. Sorry about that. All right, let's get back to in rem jurisdiction. The court must have jurisdiction over the property. Okay, now the property has to be involved in a contractual dispute. However, the property is not on the record. Only a copy of the property is on the record. Only a copy. The property is not on the record. And because the property is not on the record, they don't get to use that as oh yeah, this is what we gonna do. That's not the way it works. I just realized that sometimes with these recorders, because I'm using a different recorder for this one, the microphone, if I don't have it next to my mouth, doesn't record very well. And so what I've done is I put the phone closer to me. There's no other noise going on. Matter of fact, you can barely even hear this. Okay, I got a vehicle in front of me that's not used to being on this road. And because he's not used to being on this road, and yes, he's stupid, he's been doing, the speed limit is 55, he's doing 45 miles an hour and slowing down. Well, he just turned and is out of my way. Matter of fact, he wasn't even where he just turned. Yeah, that lets me know he wasn't even going to that location. He was just pulling out of the way on the opposite side of the road to park for some reason. He making an excuse for going as slow as he was going. I was getting ready to pass him right about here because this is a passing area. Anywho, let's get back to our property. What they put on the record is a copy. You guys must understand how important copies are. You see, I've been going in and out of court since 1983. And I tried bringing copies, going and getting copies made. What was the copy place? Office Max was one of the copy places we went through. Many of you young folks don't know what an Office Max is and how popular Office Max was. But I would go to Office Max. Then they started with Staples and all of that. And I'd get my copies and I'd pay for that. And I'd go to the court and they would tell me, oh no, we can't accept that. What do you mean you can't accept that? That's not certified. Not certified? Yeah, copies are inadmissible unless it's been certified or it's an original. What? So I already know that if that's the case for me, the banks must have it as the case for them. They don't get to just do whatever they want. Okay? I just realized something. Even though I saw those 4 different fire trucks and the supervisors, the 3 different supervisory trucks, and then the 1 maintenance truck going in my direction, they weren't going there because they think the fire is going there. They're going there as a preventative measure to set the backfires. I just realized that, and the only reason why I realized that is because if they were really trying to fight the fire, it would have been quite a bit more of them, and it wasn't. So, yay. Oh, Genuine, ladies and gentlemen, is the one that's playing in my background. All right, let's get back to that promissory note. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact is, most judges don't know that a negotiable promissory note and a promissory note are 2 different things. So now you got to educate them. You cannot foreclose on a negotiable promissory note. Ladies and gentlemen, under the speedy foreclosure doctrine and practice, you can't foreclose on a negotiable instrument. You cannot foreclose on a negotiable contract. It's not permitted. That's a regular lawsuit. And the reason why the banks don't do it is because now that takes years if it's a lawsuit, and they want you out of there quickly. That's why they use the speedy foreclosure process. Well, they haven't put the original on the record. And if they did, even now, you get them for failure of process, Your Honor, because y'all accepted jurisdiction without them providing proof. I have one case where the attorney claims that they have the original note, but it's in a vault. It's in a vault. Oh, that's good. Go get it out of the vault and bring it here. We have a right to view it. It's in a vault. Ladies and gentlemen, no, it can't be in a vault. There's no proof it's in the vault. Your word is not what we are required to take for that junk you sit up here trying to pass off as a response. Give me a second, y'all. I have some orange juice here. In my thermal thermos that is cold. Yeah, I decided to bring orange juice this morning because I'm in an orange juice kind of mood. All right. So they claimed they had it in a vote, and the judge says that was permissible. The judge literally said it was permissible. Didn't provide any proof. She just keeps coming up with rebuttals, okay, as if she's defending them. So we're going after her for bias. She says we must prove her bias and her partialness. Okay, thank you. Because the moment you just sat up here and told us we need to do that means that you didn't pay attention to nothing that we wrote already. But every time they write something, you're paying attention to everything. Thank you. But we'll cover the bias. All of the bias, not just a little bit bias. I mean, I'm not even talking about toe bias. I'm talking about bias. Whew. Anywho, now, the last jurisdiction is personam jurisdiction, or jurisdiction over the person and or parties. A judge must have jurisdiction over the parties in order for the court, because all three prongs must be met in order for any court to act. Any court that lacks any elements of the jurisdictions in rem, personam, and subject matter, you lack any one of those. Any court that lacks any one of those has no jurisdiction, cannot acquire jurisdiction. Everything they do is void ab initio. Okay? Just really that simple. If only people knew. There is nothing they can say, nothing they can do. There is no law that can give them jurisdiction. The Constitution in the United States makes it quite clear the courts can only have jurisdiction over controversies. And in order to have that type of jurisdiction, they must establish evidentiary proof that they have all three prongs met. That's why the filing party usually has the burden of proving jurisdiction. Why? Because they're the ones who filed the complaint. So start challenging their jurisdiction generally and specifically, and then label the specificities. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and stop this. Like I said, I'm gonna continue this, but it's time for me to, Anyway, that's because I'm not looking at the phone. I'm just transporting it from one side to the next. All right, give me a second. We will be doing this again shortly. Have a good day, y'all. I gotta turn y'all off before